But then, yeah, speaking of conflicting feelings on movies, I guess it's time to get into the film discussion portion of the show. So, for anyone who's unfamiliar with how this works, I used to have a YouTube show where I would recommend a bunch of movies to people, but I would show footage of the movies, and that gets flagged by copyright all the time, and I didn't want to deal with that anymore. So, and I also hated the sound of my own voice reading my scripts that I would write, so that's why we have this show, is that I couldn't continue to do that show anymore, but I still wanted to do film discussion. So every episode, the guest recommends me a movie, I recommend the guest a movie, and we discuss. And what I mean when I say conflicting emotions on movies, the Velocipastor was something else. I was kind of mad at it the first maybe 10 minutes or so, but after that I just fell into, like, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let this happen, we'll see where this goes, and it did turn into an enjoyable experience by the
what made you mad
by the end of it. Well, there's not often where, like, within the first 2 minutes I pause the movie because I don't want to. We'll get into, like, spoilers later, but
okay.
We have the character of Doug Jones, and he's this Christian pastor, and he does a sermon or whatever. He goes outside, and his parents are there, like, "Oh, hey, son," and then the car blows up, and we get a shot of, like, an empty street with an overlay that says missing VFX. And I stopped the movie and I was like, that's not real. Like, that has to be a problem with, like, because I watched it on I think it was Tubi or Vudu or one of the two, and I was like, okay, that can't be real. So I looked it up. I think it was on Tubi, and then I opened up another tab and I queued it up on Vudu, and I was like, that has to be, like, a problem with Tubi. They maybe they got a bad render of this movie, and then sure enough it pops up in Vudu as well, and I was like, oh, it's this kind of movie. So at first I was a little I was frustrated with it, but then once we get, like, maybe like 10 or 15 minutes in, I was like, okay, I can't treat this as, like, a serious thing. I just have to let this do its thing, and hopefully I'll enjoy the ride. And it is it's a fun way to kill an hour and 10 minutes. So I guess just I kind of started it off the summary a little bit, but just tell us give us a plot summary of the Velocipastor.
Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness, it's called Velocipastor. I mean, you can't. It's like the title of a movie that you would see, like a fake movie title in a Drake and Josh episode.
Exactly.
Like, that's what that is. It's like somebody seen that and was like, yeah, let's make a movie out of that. Like,
well, I was reading how it came about, like, literally on the wiki for the movie. It says the director thought of the idea in 2010 while he was attending college after his phone autocorrected Velociraptor to Velocipastor. So then he made a fake trailer, I guess, as a class project, and then I guess they crowdfunded a movie off of that trailer, and he ended up getting $35,000 to make the movie. So we all find our successes in unsuspecting places, I guess.
I mean, how awesome would it be for that director to like maybe like 10 years later become like one of the greats, one of the like top 10 best directors, and somebody's like, so what's the first film that you made? Like, and everybody looks that up.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be too it's too funny. But yeah, no, it's it's a very good B movie. It's advertised as a comedy horror film. Actually, I have another funny story about before I watched this. One of the other movies I've talked about on the show before, Color Out of Space by Richard Stanley, which is a very good guilty pleasure horror movie. I definitely recommend checking that one out. But I bought a DVD copy of it, and I was watching the previews before, and there was a preview for this before the movie played. I was like, oh man, that looks pretty, like, the trailer makes it look more like the trailer is very, very B movie-ish, but they don't really show a lot of, like, the the in jokes, like the VFX missing or the she's fine that pops up or anything like that. So I was like, oh man, that looks interesting. I can't say I'm too excited to see that. But then, like, almost like a few days later, when I reached out to you, and you recommended that one to me, I was like, oh, okay. I guess I am watching this. But I'm glad I did, because it is, like I said, it's a fun time.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, it just kills me, because I think the first time I heard about it, I was at work and one of my coworkers just was like, dude, you need to watch this trailer. Like, right now. I was like, what? What is this? Oh, and then the VX, the missing VX thing, that's like, what, 5 minutes into the movie?
Less than that. It's like a minute and a half into the movie.
And that's literally all we watched, like, at work. And then we were like, okay, we gotta go home now and finish this. But it was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, and one of the scenes that got me was, I mean, there were plenty of scenes that just killed me, but it was the pastor and the woman he was intimate with.
Right.
And it's like a freaking a montage of them.
Yeah.
And it feels like it was ripped straight from like a transition from Austin Powers, where it's just a bunch of like sliding shots across the screen of him doing different things.
Yeah.
Like it felt like so out of the movie. Like, the movie's crazy, but like it just didn't feel like it felt like I was watching Austin Powers. Like,
yeah.
That movie is crazy. I have to, like, when the pandemic is over, I just need to like pull all my friends together so we can watch it.
Exactly. And just not tell them, like, just give them the title and not tell them anything else and watch what happens. But it is it is one of those movies I could see, like, if you got a bunch of people over and like they knew nothing about the movie and you played it, I can imagine everyone having a great time, because it gets really out there, like, in ways that like it like doesn't really. I mean, like, the poster kind of spoils it a little bit, but like, if I'm just hearing the title, okay, you got this pastor who turns into a dinosaur and he uses this power to kill people who are like sinners or whatever. The last thing I'm expecting is that there's a drug dealing ninja syndicate that is trying to actively ruin his life, and that it's crazy. Like, that's the one that if I could just summarize it in one word, other than the title, it's just pure craziness. But it is very funny. It has a lot of there's a movie that I enjoy that kind of does what this movie's trying to do in a little bit of a better way, I think. But have you ever heard of Black Dynamite?
Yes, I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lot like that.
I watched your podcast on that like a couple days ago.
Oh man.
Yes. And I've only seen Black Dynamite once, but I need to watch it again because it's gold. Like,
yeah, it's one of my favorite comedies of all time. But it does a lot of what this movie does is kind of like in that same sort of vein, where it's like we're gonna be like really cheesy and over the top, and we're gonna parody like the sort of like revenge genre in like a lot of the ways that it was done in like the 70s era of like grindhouse movies, but and then there's also like the visual gags, like we keep on saying, the VFX missing, or the line where like the sequence where she's like, oh, I'm fine, you're fine, and then they throw up on screen, she's fine, for in big bold letters, in case you didn't get it. But no, it is it relishes, or like the end fight where there's like a whole bunch of different one-liners, all from like where he's like, what does he say? well, I guess we're getting into a little bit of spoilers here anyway. So, I mean, if you haven't seen The Velocipastor, you should have watched it before this podcast. What are you doing? So that way you're in on the discussion. But if you haven't seen it yet, go pause it now. It's free on Vudu and Tubi. You can also watch it, or if you don't have either of those, you can watch it on YouTube, Google Play, or Amazon. Rent it for like $4. But definitely see it at least once. It's a fun way to kill an hour and 10 minutes. But yeah, like the one-liners at the end I was mentioning, where he's like, 6 words, my hands are immune. Like, it's just, it just relishes in these, in like the tropes of that type of genre. It's fun. Fun and crazy is how I would summarize it.
Just the Velociraptor itself is just like enough. It's like, okay, all right, like.
And the fact that like it's like also in true like in parroting that genre, like they kind of like one of the aspects of it being like they're not gonna like they never show him like in his full like dino form or whatever, except for like a few parts in the beginning, and then like for the whole middle of the movie he's like a kung fu expert, and then he goes full dinosaur at the end in the best way possible. Like it's very it makes fun of that, of like we kind of have to hide how bad this is, but we can't really like. And but this movie, it doesn't care about that. It just relishes in the fact that that it is that crazy.
Yeah, that and like the evil laugh of the ninja and his like, I just like, why all the ninjas. One of the things that got me was like all the ninjas are Asian, and then like his number one man is some like white high school kid. I'm like, where did you come from?
I like that a lot. Like, that reveal.
And then he's trying to keep up with his evil laugh. And it goes on for like 3 minutes. I'm like, wait, can we go to the next scene, please? It's a little painful.
Just a little bit. But
a little bit.
Yeah, no, it's and it like again, it goes places that you're not expecting it to go. Like we like halfway through the movie, we get the backstory of like the older pastor for no reason, and again, it's just like purely making fun of like movies, like the like genre stereotypes of like I haven't been hit once in this whole war. I'm gonna, when you get out of here, name your first child after me, and immediately gets shot right through the heart. Like, it's very.
I think it was like his wife or someone was looking for him while he was supposedly at war.
And like,
and
Vietnam.
She's on. Like, where did she come from?
She steps on a landmine like that was right in front of him the whole time, and they're, oh yeah, landmine, huh? Well, nothing we can do about her. Like, it's very like it shouldn't be as funny as it is. Like, I feel bad saying that, but it really like I can very easily see like if I had stuck with that mindset of like that shot isn't real, like there's no way that this is actually happening, I feel like it would have been a very different experience. Like, I would have like been like, instead of finding that stuff as funny as it did, I feel like I would have just gotten mad at the whole movie. So it is very polarizing. Like, if you're not gonna stick with like all the weird things that it does and all the craziness that it indulges in, you're just not going to have a good time. So it is very polarizing, but I think if you can like muscle past that sort of gut reaction of seeing the beginning and just kind of let yourself go, it's enjoyable.
Yeah, definitely have to like force that suspension of disbelief, or like it just accept that like this isn't one of your movies that you like sit in class and pick apart. Like,
right.
No, this isn't one of those movies.
Yeah, but
I really wish that they would show this in a class. Like,
Yeah, if only purely being like, here's some interesting, like, modern satire and parody ideas you can use, but also
Right.
please invest in a good VFX budget.
Yes, please. Like, I don't even know how much the movie made, if it made anything.
Let's see. I'm on the wiki right now. It was made for $35,000. It doesn't say anything about what it grossed. I can't imagine that, like, it probably, if I had to guess, maybe like made its money back and that's it. Maybe it was a little bit more successful, but I feel like if it was, if it did make a lot of money, we would have heard about it like way sooner than we had. Because I feel like a lot of B movies, like stuff like Birdemic or like Sharknado or whatever, like you only really hear about the B movies that are like runaway successes. So
Yeah, yeah. It's weird because like Sharknado has what like 5 movies, and I haven't seen any of them.
I think
But
that's one of those movies where you don't really need to see it to understand what's
yeah,
what the appeal is. But yeah, no, it's
or
yeah.
like there was a movie that was on Netflix for a while, and I'm mad that I didn't watch it. But it was about a killer tire.
Oh yeah, Rubber.
Like,
That's another one that everyone loves to talk about. I haven't
okay,
seen it in its entirety, but from what I understand, it's very similar to this, where like it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's purely, it's just stupid fun. Yeah, no, that's a shame that that's off Netflix though, because I know that I remember hearing for a while that was like the weird, like you find it at 3 a.m. after scrolling for 2 hours, and you're like, what the hell is this? But yeah, no, it definitely has it regardless of how much money it made back, it definitely I think has a very good spot in like so bad it's good and just the like modern B movie genre.
yeah, that movie was crazy.
And I actually, now that I'm looking at the wiki, there is there's apparently in talks for a sequel from
A sequel for
for Velocipastor. Yeah,
oh my
the
god.
director Brendan Steere. It just says Brendan Steere wants to do a sequel to the movie, as he believes the world of Velocipastor is so permissible and fun. So I guess we're gonna see him and Carol traveling the world,
Mm.
killing more ninjas and and getting rid of more sinners.
Wow, I can't wait. I need another Velocipastor. Like that can happen. That
I'm
can
excited
happen.
for it. But